Okay, it's Weird Thoughts from Tracy Rubel. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I have weird thoughts about psychotherapy. I actually get really curmudgeonly sometimes about our field. And I want to talk about what happens or what's on my mind, because I'm not going to put this information out there as I'm an expert lecturing to you. I want to be in dialogue with you because I have these weird thoughts. Some people say they like my weird thoughts. This has been with me since the minute I was in grad school. I started going, this psychology thing feels a lot like the religion I grew up in. There seemed to be a 10 commandments of what a good human is. And people are just using psychology to be a good human now rather than some religion. I'm like, well, that doesn't feel particularly free. And I was grateful to go to a graduate program that was rooted in Eastern philosophy. So we got to play around with a definition of the self that was not just hyper individualistic, but also collective. And that really challenged my worldview. Um, but we also challenged, I remember in my class where we were learning about diagnosing people for insurance forms, we all kind of wanted to vomit in our mouths a little bit like, wow, the minute that you have to start diagnosing somebody, it already changes the relational field because you're not listening for the magnificence of who this person is and how their spirit takes all the shit that they've dealt with in life and uses it to live a life. Instead, the minute you impose that medical model, you're mechanizing the human spirit into broken and fixed. I thought, oh, that sucks. Now I still have to do it. People come into therapy because they're either suffering or they want better relationships. At the foundation, that's how I see it. I then subsequently trained a lot in trauma. So at our grad program, we started training in somatic psychology and traumatology. I mean, I trained with Peter Levine 20 years ago. I trained with Stacey Haynes 20 years ago, before the language of trauma was cool. But even then, I started going, if we're looking for everybody's trauma all the time, what do we miss about a person, right? And there have been some great articles about post-traumatic growth and da 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 da. But sometimes it misses the magnificence of a human soul. And I'm always holding that tension. Oh, I just felt a little sadness come up in me, in my belly. I could almost feel a tear coming when I said that. Look, as I'm getting ready to plan this bus tour, it is so hard for me to capture that I don't want to speak for what other listeners do, but when I go listen on sidewalks, I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to get to know a group of people in a town that I've never been to. But I'm also trying to listen. We call it free listening, but here's the funny thing. It really is about freedom making listening. Because when you listen to somebody and you don't have this kind of, oh, I need to empathize with your painful feelings, or I need to feel what you feel, or I need to have compassion for your suffering, there's still a little bit of that medicalized, there's something wrong here about your humanity, and I'm here to help. Yes, there is something beneficial about sharing your story with another human. But my devotion and my practice is to listen in a way that somebody can stay really weird, to listen in a way that I actually don't medicalize this person as broken and fixed. And we're going out and listening for Mental Health Awareness Month, but I can't quite get, and it doesn't matter what group of people, whether they're Black therapists or white therapists or Jewish therapists or human rights activists, I can't quite get people out of this listening for the wound, listening for the wound. and I don't listen for people's wounds. I am so damn curious about people's magnificence. And see, I feel the tear come again in my belly. I just can feel this. Yeah, I just feel really, really passionate about saying what I'm saying and moved. I appreciate my field. I so appreciate that we really help people suffer less and love better. But sometimes it's gone too far to have us reducing people down to their wound. And so when you develop the capacity to listen differently, and maybe I'll just make it up as I go, that you listen for what's wonderful, that you I literally put myself in a position like a mother looking at her newborn baby's face. You don't listen, they're perfect already. They look like a little alien, but they're perfect. And I listen for that in people. And for me, I don't know how to get this message across. So if you've got a good advice for me, I can't quite get people to understand that it's not about the techniques of listening and active listening and repeating back, which we teach all that stuff. But sometimes when I give people a shorthand, I said, here's my listening primer for you for the day. Fall in love with every person that sits across from you and find everything that you can to delight in. Be in a place of amazement about how their mind works, how their psyche works, how their spirit works, and don't medicalize them. Don't listen for their wound and their trauma, and draw out from them a story. Because the other thing that bums me out is that people will sit down and report about their wound, and they'll start telling me a story about what's broken and wrong with them because freaking psychology is teaching people to look at themselves that way. Oh, now I'm mad. I feel I want to reach through the screen right now and say to you, I know, I know. Now the tears come. I feel this so, so strongly that without a shadow of a doubt, that you are wonderful. I just know it. And everything about you makes sense. The weird shit you say when someone pisses you off, or when someone gives you the side eye, or when somebody doesn't return your phone call, or yeah, sure, we could be more at choice with our automatic conditioned tendencies. Fine. But that's for therapy. You go work that out. And yes, that's what I do with clients. I help them feel more agency in their lives and their reactivities and their autopilots. But when I'm listening on the sidewalk, I just want to say to you, everything that you do and say, it makes sense to me. And I'm curious about you. And I want to understand how your mind works. And I'm listening to you because I think you're amazing. And I wish we could do that more, that we could talk about ourselves from our amazingness, and that we could listen to each other for our amazingness. Thanks for listening to my sermon. I just felt so strongly about this. We are so much more than our wounds. So much more. Yeah.